Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Naomi. As I mentioned before, it is about the journey of the leader, but I'm so excited today to have one of my friends, Doug. Doug, welcome to In Conversations with Naomi, and will you please tell us just a little bit about who Doug is and where Doug comes from?
Fantastic. Listen, what a privilege, man, to be on such an exciting show, and I'm delighted to see that content like this is being produced so well. So I'll do my best to further the cause, man. But,
you will further the cause. So happy to have you here.
Indeed. So you asked, I'm a chicken salesman. Is what I do.
Chicken salesman.
And when you tell people that at parties, that's normally the end of the conversation. Oh, that must be interesting, and then off they go. But I work for a tremendous company called Nando's.
Wait, who's that?
Exactly right. It depends where you are in the world. They'll ask you that question.
I don't know that brand.
Indeed. So I've been with Nando's for almost 9 years.
Right.
And it still feels new. I'm just taking on a new role. We'll talk about that in just a second. But for most of the 9 years, I've been running marketing for them here in South Africa, as well as across the Middle East, parts of Africa, and then very exciting parts of the world like India.
Yeah.
It's a big growth market for us. Yeah. Pakistan and a few other bits and pieces around the world. So about 13 countries in total. But
yes.
Most exciting here, the home of the brand. It's one of South Africa's biggest global brands. It's probably one of the bigger consumer businesses launched here in South Africa. Yeah. It's up there with the MultiChoices and the Vodacoms and of course some of the big banks.
I'd argue to say they're bigger than the MultiChoices.
It depends on how you measure size.
For me, it's brand recognition. By
brand, yes. I think we're the sixth biggest and of the top five, most of them are banks. And then telecom, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So you were the man behind so many of the entertainment.
That's right, yeah, marketing. It depends where you are in the world, right? You can think of it like, we call it the Uber test. So if you jump into an Uber and the Uber driver says, so what do you do? And you say you work for Nando's, depending on which country you're in, the familiarity of the Uber driver when you say you work for Nando's is an interesting proxy for where the business and brand is at its development. So in South Africa, they'll say what you said, which is, you guys make naughty ads or funny ads, or I like what you say on Twitter or X now. If you are in the UK, it's quite different. They'll talk about popping out for a cheeky Nando's.
Okay.
Or they'll ask, do you have a black card, which is this mythical thing that definitely doesn't exist, that only a small community of celebrities like Beyonce and Ed Sheeran have. It doesn't exist. It's not real. But they'll ask if you can have a black card. If you're in the United States, they'll ask, sorry, what's Nando's? We're quite new there. We're still building and growing our business there. Yes, we've been in Washington for some time, but we've just opened the southern states now. So Atlanta and Georgia and Dallas. And
nothing in Boston?
Not yet, no. Sometime. Well,
hopefully.
Yeah, rent's very high.
It's okay. I have to fly to Washington for now, but that's okay.
Yeah, Washington, Chicago, and then Dallas.
Yes.
It's taken off really nicely in Dallas quite recently this year, actually. So, depending where you are in the world, the answer to that Uber question will be different. But the advertising, to your question, is very definitely part and parcel of what people love and admire and appreciate about the brand locally. So I got to do that for a long time. It was really terrifying.
Of course. Do I still have my job tomorrow? Did I push this one too far?
Actually, it was never that. The biggest criticisms that we face is when it's not hard enough. It's really interesting. So, if the ads are boring or dull or don't go hard enough, a lot of what the approach to the advertising is to say what people already think and feel. And when a big brand like Nando's says it makes them feel, that they're not alone in the world with the thing that, we laugh at the things that most South Africans laugh at. We cheer when South Africans cheer, and we're cross with the things that South Africans are cross about. And so if you do that in a way that's not as strong as it possibly can be, that's when actually people get upset.
Really? That's when you get the most backlash?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Cancel culture is a very real thing.
Yes.
It's less real than I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. If you speaking truth to power, is part and parcel of being a South African.
Yes.
You know, and all Nando's really does is reflect back to people things that they already believe and care about. And so if you do that in a way that's half-hearted or, you know, a little bit safe, then that's when people get really upset. Like, Nando's, we wanted you to go harder about this issue, or, you know, or go to different places.
Right. And I know marketing is obviously not only advertising, but...
Thank you for saying that. It's so often not the case, yeah.
For a lawyer to know marketing, I like
No,
that.
delighted. Well done.
Yay! AMP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
We'll talk about AMP later. But anyway, what I want you to say is like the advertising is almost the outputs of it. It's like what we all see.
Sure.
And I find that you guys have been that collective voice for South Africans. And you say that we go hard on you if you do not, speak up as loudly. But Nando's for me is more than just a food brand. It has become a South African brand that carries the voice of the nation. And you guys are so quick at it. Like, we would win the rugby now, and then in 5 minutes it's out. How do you manage in such a fast-paced environment?
Yeah, sure. It's a common question. The rugby is easy because you know there's a match on Saturday.
Yes.
We know it's a crucial match, and if South Africa beat Argentina, I don't know when this is going to be aired, but you can prepare for win and lose, and then you just publish the result. Actually, that's what happened in the World Cup. We were sort of writing.
You had both of them.
And it was please
win.
Yeah, please can we not have to publish this one?
Right.
The more difficult ones are when things happen that you don't expect, like. Desmond Tutu passed away, and this is a beloved, kind of, he's the priest of the nation in many ways.
Yes.
And so being able to reflect back that very somber moment, that's when it's, you have to scramble the fighter jets and get everyone together on holiday. It's a WhatsApp group, it's a conversation, and really the recipe is what are people already saying? What's the collective mood and sentiment?
Yes.
And then how do you play that back in a way that's slick and smart and South African? And if the occasion presents itself, it can be funny. Obviously, the passing of someone is never...
It's not funny, but
not necessarily funny.
There's a way that you can
to be
reflect
smart
it,
and slick and South African, and to do that in a way that makes people go, that's exactly how I feel. Thank you for saying it. What I was feeling in a way that's better than I could have said.
It's a responsibility.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's really, really good. So a large portion of it, and the real ingredient actually isn't humor, it isn't clever writing, it's empathy. Because you have to be able to identify with how people are feeling en masse at a big scale. And there's lots of data sources you can use, but fundamentally is, you want to be the most human brand, really. And in a world that is increasingly bananas about AI and big data and the internet and ones and zeros and click-through rates and all these things which are important, if they don't ladder up to something that's human, then it's unlikely, I think, to have a profound business impact. Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So trying to be just really human. That's, on a personal kind of leadership level, I've had to be able to understand cultures and, genres of entertainment and sports fixtures that I would never have followed. But because they
read about.
Yeah, exactly. But they're so important to everyday South Africans. I mean, like, I'm a white kid who went to a private school. I listened to alt rock in the 90s. Like, I just don't have...
What's alt rock again?
I don't have a lexicon of, early Kwaito music.
Yes.
And so when a Jub news event happens, like, that's just not part of my institutional knowledge or memory, but you have to be able to kind of,
relate.
I'm always studying exactly, what exactly is this thing about? How does this thing work?
Where does this come from?
And it's pop culture, but it's also, changes in legislation and changes in, the government. And there's all of the things that people have a national interest in. If you're going to be empathetic, you have to be able to understand what are the hot buttons there. And listen, we don't always get it right, definitely. I mean,
But that's about being human, and you were saying that you need to relate to human on an empathy level, right? As humans, we're never going to get it right.
Well, listen, there are very few businesses I know of that aren't run by anything other than humans and create products and services for humans to enjoy.
We don't have AI businesses yet. Or AI customers.
Well, I've heard today OpenAI is finally going to become a for-profit business. It's like, welcome.
Okay. Right.
But even then, it is, it's bizarre that you have to say this,
Yes.
but at the foundation of business is humans and
Yes.
people. You employ people for people, then you serve people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think
Yes.
empathy is a great source of competitive advantage.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I like about South Africa, and we can go anywhere around the world, spend time on vacation or live there, and you come back and you realize just how open we are about talking about our challenges and about the country. We are not politically correct. And in fact, I think
goodness.
we
Sure.
are opposite to politically correct. And I sometimes struggle, especially when I'm in the USA, and it's like I just want to say, it's like I just want to say what I think or confront a situation, and that is what you guys have just captured so much. It's beyond just finding the moments that's happening, but it's really bringing some of those social constructs and addressing issues that is important to us as a country.
I mean, you make it sound way more like highfalutin and important, but thank you. Listen, it's very, very generous of you. I mean, it's interesting. So one of the newest Nando's markets is Saudi Arabia. And we've been trading there for 7 or 8 years now. And, it's a notoriously conservative culture. So how do you, as a South African brand, which has South Africa in its DNA, and whether that's truth to power or being able to laugh at difficult situations. I mean, one of the big things for us in building a restaurant there is you had the separation of singles and families, which is religious law.
Really?
At the time. So the way that we build restaurants, it wasn't necessarily, you can't just build a big communal restaurant that everyone can. Certainly, we had to, be able to have dividers that reflect the traditions and culture of the placement. So how do you, without imposing yourself on a culture, be respectful of it, but also be true to who you are as South African. So, even in restaurant design, and we had some really clever design solutions for that, which allowed the restaurant configuration to change during the day, because single people eat during the day and families eat during the evening. And that we were the first to do this in Saudi Arabia. And so that before we even talk advertising, there was a way that we could say, as Africans, we understand how family works, and different families have different cultures, because we have lots of different cultures here that do family differently. And be able to meet the needs of the local market and community. And again, it's the same thing about empathy, is what are the things that they really care about, and can you serve that need in that way, in a way that's really true and different to who you are as a brand.
And without straying too far away from it. I love that you guys were able to build the restaurant in a way that it serves both, but you don't have to build two different...
Exactly, yeah. I mean, one of the major challenges we had with the local authorities at the time was most restaurants have two entrances, one for singles and one for families, and we had one entrance. And once you come through the restaurant, then you were sort of directed accordingly. And they were quite anxious, like, where's the second entrance? How does this work? And so we had to work with the local authorities. Say, look, here's how it is. Here's when it's time for prayer, the shutters come down. We don't serve. Music goes off. So it was how do you mediate between local customs and norms and take that into the fabric of how you run a business? It's a lot more liberalized than it was, say, 10 years ago. I mean, even just playing music in the restaurants was difficult 10 years ago.
Wasn't playing music illegal?
Haram, yeah, that's right. Well, non-religious music, you could play that.
Non-religious music.
But we have the sound of Nando's, which is this kind of Afro-Luso, Portuguese, Brazilian,
mix.
This is Nando's has a smell and a look and a feel, and it's got a sound too.
And you want to be true to that, right?
Yeah, precisely.
Because you want people to walk into a Nando's across the world and feel like, yes, I'm home, or yes, I'm in a Nando's. For the most part.
Correct, yeah. So all good brands are built on things that make them different and better than other brands. So that's one of the things. So it wasn't easy.
Amazing. But enough about the Nando's brand. Let's talk about the Doug brand. Where did Doug start? Tell us a little bit about Doug as the kid.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I'm born and raised in South Africa. I've got a slight English accent because I worked there for 2 years and watched a lot of English comedy.
Right.
And
you went to an English school.
Yeah, you'll enjoy. A real foundational moment was, remember we used to have movie review shows? Yeah. Barry Wronger.
Yeah.
Now Barry.
I loved him.
Remember Barry? Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So Barry taught my mom English at university.
Right.
It's dating a few people there.
Proper.
And he used to have a show called Screenplay, which used to air on a Thursday night before the film was opened on a Friday. And we used to watch this as a family. And he said, listen, if you're between the ages of, I remember it was like 14 and 17, they were really specific age ranges, and you want to see movies before any of your friends, then phone this number.
Yes.
And I thought, well, that sounds great. So I ran down the passage. It was one of those that you have to dial, you have to dial the phone this way, yeah?
We're giving our age away here, Doug.
And I never got in. I never got through the call center. But my friend, who watched the same program that night, and I saw him on the weekend, Andrew, he got in. And I was like, Andrew, you need to phone those people back and say you bring your friend. Like, make a plan here.
Yes.
And bless him, he was a good friend. And he did that. So we went through to Ster Kinnekor's offices. And they showed us some teen film. It was kind of, it was probably a slasher film or like a rom-com. I don't remember the specific film. And then you had a bunch of people ask us questions, like, is this a good film? Is it a bad film? Is this a good trailer? Does the trailer make you want to see the film? Which poster? So it was basically market research for this. And I thought, like, if I can get paid to do this, then I'm in. I'm golden.
Sign me up.
If I can get paid to watch films, this is going to be the greatest job ever made. So if you look at my yearbook under my photograph, where it says a desired profession, Springbok, CEO, accountant. So mine says market the movies.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went and I studied two things. There wasn't a market the movies degree. There was like film and arts degrees, and then there were marketing and business degrees. Yeah. So I did both. I did an arts degree in film and drama.
I did not know that.
And then I did a commerce degree in marketing and a BCom degree. Now, they had a lot in common, like law and economics. And so it's not as, like, brainy as it sounds.
I think it is.
I had a good time at university. I did things other than study.
Because I imagine doing arts and drama as, like, very out there and very, like, in theatre.
No, they were, like... They didn't wear shoes and had blue hair, and it was like very free and arts. And I went to WITS, so University of Witwatersrand, and it's a bit like the human brain. You have an east campus and a west campus, and on the one side is the arty side, and the other side is the more constructed side with engineering and commerce. Right. So I used to.
You trained both of them up at the same time.
So I used to go from like drama and film, lectures, which were all very free thinking and freewheeling, to like. Derivative analysis and stockbroking, corporate finance things, and that was quite a paradigm shift. But enjoyed it, and I did well enough at marketing, because marketing is a great blend of art and science. Yes. And so a lot of the psychometric tests, you have career counselling and sort of things. I've got a good left and right brain balance, which means I'm very average. I'm very good at being average at lots of things. And which is why I didn't want to be writing film scripts and be an artistic side of it. I want to be in the business side of that business. Yeah. And a lot of my life has been balancing these two hemispheres, making sure there's enough free thinking and creativity, but there's also enough kind of structure and rigor and discipline as well. And I did really well at the marketing in particular, so I got bursaries to do that at postgrad level. And this was early 2000s, and like the internet was going to be a thing. And
it's going to take over the world.
There's a bank called Capital One Bank, which is an American bank, but have big presence in places like the UK, who are a direct bank. Right. And they don't have branches. And so I was doing my postgrad on, we called it then database marketing. It's since evolved into kind of CRM, and I think we call it big data now, which is, can you form a relationship with someone, using the internet as a facilitator of that relationship? And so I did that as a postgrad, and Capital One were quite interested in that because they were looking to launch in South Africa. And they had a big grad program, grad intake.
I never knew Capital One was looking at coming to South Africa.
Yeah, it was with Nedbank. They was kind of the banking partner. Yeah. By the time I finished, that kind of relationship had fallen through, and they decided for a variety of reasons not to launch. Yeah. But they said, look, you're welcome to apply to our grad intake program in the UK. And so that's what I did. So I went to the UK for a couple of years, and I think I was their diversity hire. Because of the 30 grads that took, 29 were from Oxford or Cambridge, and then the African.
And then there's one from Witwatersrand. Could they even pronounce
the
it?
African and I worked in their marketing and analytics department. Yes. But I was very much in the analytics side of things, and it was sort of credit risk modeling and helping build credit products.
Yes.
And as a bank, they had this sort of, this balance, which was later popularized by like Nassim Taleb, of like balancing the barbell with like high risk lending on the one hand and then super low risk lending on the other. And I was in the high risk side. So my first like proper job, and I had cool student jobs. We should talk about some of those because those are very useful as well. Was subprime lending, and the subprime crisis happened.
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, I had my first job was a front row seat to the financial apocalypse. Yeah,
Whoa,
exactly.
To what caused the whole world to almost.
Yeah, it was a lot, and very far from drama and film and marketing, doing hectic risk stuff, which I was.
Did you enjoy it?
No,
I thought so.
it was really hard. To be honest, I'm really glad I did it. Like all
good training.
Well, there's not a lot of marketers out there who can do like credit risk modeling, as it turns out.
No,
so it became a point.
not.
You asked about brand Doug. It's one of the things that allowed me to differentiate myself from other marketers was this ability to understand finance and maths and risk and all of these things. So
because you kind of like have to bring that into your role as a marketer.
Definitely,
you
man.
have to be able to do those analysis.
And we can talk about marketing in general, but having a mathematical kind of grounding to it. It was really hard. It's not something I ever wanted to build a career out of. And I'd had a girlfriend, now a wife, who was staying in South Africa, and so I was separated from her, and we wanted to get married. So I came back to South Africa. But she'd visited me in the UK, and we'd gone on a tourist visit to Birmingham and visited the Bourneville factory for Cadbury. Yes. And it was astonishing, not just because it's cool, it's a chocolate factory and it's great, but the story of that company and how it was founded during the Industrial Revolution as a place that does really good things for people. It's good for community, good for their workers, and like, who hates chocolate? Yeah. And I thought, like, this is a really, and I'm experiencing this during, and Capital One was a great business. It was one of the top businesses in the UK to work for. Yes. So I didn't have a bad employment experience there, but every day you're faced with people who are massively indebted, and that causes all sorts of societal problems. And
you are enabling that.
Well, I'm trying not to, but it's difficult, and I don't want to be hard on those people because that's also how economies grow. But
of course,
I thought I'd much rather work for Cadbury, and so I had a friend who worked for Cadbury locally, and I said, "Listen, do you know of any jobs opening?" He says, "Well, in the marketing department, there's a lady who's going on maternity leave. Maybe you can do like some cover work there." And so I called. He was the new marketing director at the time. It just started at Cadbury South Africa. That separated from a company called Bromore Foods, which was then sold to Tiger Brands, like a beverage business. And so they were busy rebuilding their management structures. So I started selling chocolate bars. So I went from like credit risk modeling to chocolate bars.
So like I'm selling happiness now.
In South Africa. And that was like the perfect mix of, I believed in it, I loved it, I was good at it.
You found your zone.
And because the chocolate bars in Cadbury are brilliant, because there's some local brands like Lunch Bar, which only are sold here, but you also have global products like Flake and Dairy Milk. And so you get the best of like freedom to operate locally and then understand what it's like to manage a global brand in a local market. So that's where I got stuck in. So then, Cadbury, and worked for them for 4 or 5 years. They acquired the Adams business, and so they, these chewing gum brands, Cimarol, Dentine, Clarets. So I worked on those brands for some time as well. My grandparents were less excited about me peddling chewing gum than they were about, Cadbury chocolate.
Right. Oh, they were probably less excited of you being part of the confectionery industry instead of being with the bank, because somehow working for one of these large banking institutions is like a lot more admired by parents or grandparents. At least that's what I found.
Listen, I've got great parents and grandparents. They wanted me to be happy more than anything.
I love them.
But when they talk to their friends, so what does your grandson do? Now he sells chewing gum. It's different.
It's different. It's very different. It's absolutely different. But
and they weren't really big users of the product. So it was fine.
I didn't even know that they had chewing gum.
Yes, I still do. It's now part of Kraft Foods. So when Kraft bought Cadbury, I'd kind of had enough, and briefly joined AVI, another sort of packaged goods company, and did marketing for them. But and the reason I'd tell this long story, and I started with Barry Ronga, was
Back to the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ster-Kinekor, Avatar had just happened. So this is late, this is 2009, 2010.
Yeah,
This phenom had hit global box
We're heading
offices.
towards the World Cup in South Africa.
This is a little bit afterwards. So
Afterwards.
yeah, so yes, 2010, 2011. And, Prime Media had acquired Ster-Kinekor theatres. They also had Ster-Kinekor Entertainment, which was a film distribution business. But the theatres business they were very excited about. And they were looking for a marketing director. And I said, well, it turns out here's my high school yearbook marketing movies. Like, I'm literally the guy.
This is what I want to do for a living.
And I know that when I went to Wits, like there weren't people that went to the same classes that did,
Exactly.
did both. And so that was my first major leadership position. I'd been promoted in various brand manager, senior brand manager, marketing manager roles at Cadbury and the likes, but this was a director level position.
Yeah.
And it was on the one hand a total dream come true. It's like I get to lead marketing, not just work, like lead marketing for this company that
And in an area that I wanted to do all the time, right?
which was phenomenal. And also incredibly stressful and difficult because, leading a team of, 15, 20 people, we had to restructure the team early on. So that was really hard. I was really young.
Yeah.
So a lot of the team were older than me.
Yeah.
And I'd worked in the movie business for 20 odd years while I'd sold chewing gum. That's the thing, is you're going to have to work through with people.
And the trust that people have in you. What do you know about this business?
All of that, exactly. All of that. But it was great because the transition of Ster-Kinekor was, we had to move it away from being a movie business because you can watch films anywhere now.
Yes.
And we wanted to focus on, again, what's different and what's better. And whilst you can watch films anywhere, there's no better place to see them than in a cinema.
Yeah.
And being able to convince...
The experience that you're going to have.
Exactly. So we're not an experience business, we're not a movie business. Yeah. And so how do you then extend that experience business? So we launched Cine Prestige as a sub-brand, like this business class cinema concept.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that was...
But they still have it.
Yeah, definitely. And still very successful. What was nice about that, it was kind of content agnostic because people went for the experience. They didn't care that much about the film.
Yeah.
Whereas they're quite picky and choosy. Like, well, that film I'll watch on DSTV later, or this one is an event. I'm going to go to the cinema. In Prestige, the event is the Prestige experience, and I can take someone on a date there or an anniversary or have a cool experience. And then IMAX, which had been in South Africa and was a documentary format, and not successful, the business they'd left, was being remodeled as a feature film format. And mostly because of digital cinema, because they weren't shoot on celluloid anymore. And so we then entered into a partnership to bring IMAX back to South Africa. And so relaunching that and working with IMAX Corporation was also phenomenal, because that's my preferred. If you ask me today, I love Prestige, but IMAX is the business. It's astonishing how good that is as a format.
I've never been to IMAX.
Oh, Naomi.
It has been. I'm like, I must do it, and I'm like, I'm just sitting here and realizing I haven't.
No, it's breathtaking. It's astonishing.
Okay.
The world's best filmmakers shoot in IMAX, and then what the IMAX Corporation put into the post-production of that film is.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
It's on my 2024 bucket list.
Get it done.
Got it. Got it. Sorry, I interrupted.
Not at all. I'm talking. Yes. Feel free to interrupt. So movies, and then I was called to lead marketing for Nando's, and I remember I was at the Durban Film Festival. Because it was in July of 2015. And I said, you know what, I'm living my best life. I'm
loving what I'm doing.
Like, here's my high school yearbook, man.
Okay.
It's like, thank you, I'm very flattered.
I'm living my dream.
So there were two reasons I said, one of which I was living the dream, and I was having a good time doing the movie thing. The other thing was, who the hell wants to run marketing for Nando's? Like, there's nothing but risk there. Like, who wants to take over from Steve Jobs?
Yeah.
You can, if it's successful, it's because Steve, and if it's a failure, it's like you broke it.
Yes.
And I thought, this is such a massively important, powerful, it's consumer brand, Nando's. Yeah. And the guy who'd done it was so good at it, they promoted him to CEO. Mike, he's still with us today.
Which is not often that you get. Was he in marketing?
Yes.
It's not often that you get marketers in a South African context that become a CEO,
exactly.
Right?
It's a South African thing more than a global thing.
Yeah.
Often globally, marketers become CEOs.
In South Africa, they love CAs.
Yeah, and now look at it, looks,
Yeah.
Flat.
But now you have to go
love you, CAs.
and love CAs too. Now you've got to go and take over or consider taking over from a legend.
So what changed my mind about it was I'd kind of done the things I wanted to do at Circuit, the Prestige, the IMAX, and the business has done really well. So I thought I can just rinse and repeat. And I looked at Nando's, and Nando's in 2014 it just opened its first Twitter account. It was really late to the internet and social media. There was no way of buying Nando's online, and it didn't really have an online presence. This culture brand, the social brand, it was there, but I thought, well, that's something I can do.
Yeah.
And one of the things I've been involved in Ster-Kinekor was, moving away from buying tickets at a box office from a person to
the online,
ordering on an app.
Yeah.
And we built this brilliant app for Ster-Kinekor that, I think when I left, 70% of all the sales happened through this app. So I know how to do e-commerce, and I can take that and I can add. It's like if I don't break the brand, I can say, well,
I can add value.
I can sell chicken on the internet. I can do that part. And so, that was what sort of convinced me, and it's been terrifying. It's such a wonderful brand.
But you've been there for how long now?
Yeah, so I started I did just South Africa, the marketing director, and a few years later, they merged this franchising business, this international franchising business, into the South African business, and then I did that for, so South Africa and these licensed markets, and then added the condiments business, so all the products you buy in Pick and Pay and ShopRite, about 3-4 years ago now. That was also, part of one marketing department. Right. So it's been lots of new things
added along the way.
Yeah, precisely.
And you didn't break it.
No, I came close, but listen, it's been what a blessing, man. What a great thing, and to lead a team, because you get to pick the brightest and best. Nando's advertises a position in their marketing department, you have more than 1,000 people apply. Wow. So it's...
And how do you go through all of that?
Not easily.
I can imagine.
It's really difficult. And
because we have really talented people in South Africa, right? But you've got to look for talent plus culture.
Yeah, and track record and experience and all of those things. So you're hiring people who are better than you at the thing they do. Yeah. That was a big leadership lesson for me. It was to not be the brightest person in the room. And to be okay with that. Yeah. Like, that's why that person's there. And like Steve Jobs said, you don't hire smart people and then tell them what to do. You hire them and they tell you what to do. Right. And
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
A tough one. And how do you become comfortable with that?
Practice. It's definitely gotten easier. Part of it, my relationship with it now is relief, not of threat.
Right, of course.
It's like, oh, thank God someone knows what this thing's all about, and we can help.
Go run with it. Do what you need to do.
Exactly. And so I had really good coaches and a really good mentor on this as well, and they warned me early on and said, look, you talk a lot, as you can tell, and you're quite bright and you've done some stuff, and you were promoted really early, so you've had a career which has been reinforced with success. Yeah. But that don't be trapped into thinking that you are the sum total of the intelligence of the whole known world. There's lots of things you don't know, and it's a joy to discover that in other people and then unearth that talent. Yes. And for me, it's incredibly rewarding to watch people grow. At the time I was at Nando's, I've kind of given birth to 4 or 5 marketing directors.
Oh, wonderful.
Who've gone to be marketing directors in the Nando's business and beyond the Nando's business as well.
Right.
And that's
a legacy, right?
I love that. I love that. And I never thought when I started that I would feel that way about it. Yeah. And so it's kind of, good leaders make good leaders. Yes. Rather than just suck all the air out of the room by being the brightest person.
And then people leave and it's like, there was a worse person and you've broken.
Oh, I'm sure I've met a couple of those. But
we're human too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you learn from that.
But as long as you're driven by, and in class we spoke a lot about purpose. What is your purpose? What is the purpose of the brand? And if you come close to understanding what your purpose is, breeding and building and bringing more people that can bloom and that can become what they want to be, then becomes the joy for you.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, it doesn't have to only be growth. I mean, it can be growth on their own terms. It's really nice to lead some people that go like, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. I just want to be better at it.
Yes. Yeah.
I think young people particularly have a very narrow view of growth. It's only promotions. It's like, no, and I get that because it's a good indicator of success, but it's
not the only indicator of success.
Yeah, so I don't want to be the CEO. You know what I mean? Like, I love what I do. I haven't wanted my boss's job in more than a decade. I mean, you asked me when I got here, like, are you on the way to CEO? Like, I don't know, maybe that's not on your cards. It's not interesting to me.
It's not what you're thinking about right now.
I'm not anti it, but it's. I get so much joy in the present moment doing this thing.
Yes.
And if it ladders to a new thing, as I'm doing a new thing now.
Tell me about the new thing.
Right, so the best part of marketing at Nando's is it's the marketing at Nando's.
Yes.
The worst part is, like, there's not a lot of other marketing jobs in the world that were that interesting to me. And I'm not, that can sound very condescending and patronizing, and I don't mean that at all. There's some wonderful marketing opportunities, they're just not really available often.
Yes.
And so, and I'd had this experience of it was great to watch people grow, and I didn't want to stand in the way of other people growing as well. And some people had to leave Nando's to go and do marketing director roles, and I had these particularly two people who've now taken over.
Yes.
And so I wanted to explore life beyond marketing, which is one of the reasons I did the A&P.
Yes.
Which was to leave the comfort zone of the brand and the discipline, and was those two things, because at Harvard Business School, it's the Uber test. Yes. Sorry, what's Nando's? There's no Nando's in Boston.
Probably only the South Africans in the class knew what
exactly. Yeah, and they knew the ads, but not exactly.
From the
but we're talking 10 out of 180 people. And there are very few kind of marketing professionals on that course as well. And so it was incredibly destabilizing in the most wonderful way to not to lean back on the notoriety of the brand and the profession and the marketing and all of these. That's not South Africa, not marketing, not Nando's.
Rethink, reframe, and just question so many things in just a beautifully new environment.
Very, very challenging. Everyone there's a badass. Like, it's like Real Madrid. There's no weak place.
There were times I would sit in the class and think, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, sure.
Just kidding.
No.
But
that was the whole point. If I'm going to go there just to tell people how smart I am, then I've wasted everyone's time and money.
Yes.
So that was really that was great, because it allowed me to. There are things that I'm good at that I didn't know I was good at. There's also things that I enjoy that I didn't think I would enjoy. There's also things I'm really... so like HR is a good example.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. My experience of HR had been... And that was my fault, not HR's fault, quite transactional. Like, we hire and we fire and we manage policies and we do some training. It's like, no, HR can be a source of competitive advantage. It can be a thing that makes a business brilliant.
It's like a discipline that can bring so much value to the...
Every HR person who's watching this is going, obviously.
Like, duh, I could have told you guys that.
But for me, I was like, I'd never thought of it outside of my own experience of it, which was so limited by, I need to hire a person, fire a person, train a person,
It's kind of like how the business views marketing. They don't realize it's part of your competitive advantage.
Yeah,
right?
you guys make ads. Yeah, exactly.
Cheers.
It's like, yes, we do make ads, but there's a lot more than precisely. So there was also some things like, I did an undergraduate degree in corporate finance and investments.
Yeah.
I just don't ever want to be that guy. It's I can understand it enough in a meeting, but I don't want to be the person that decides the capital structure of a business.
I'll hire someone to do that in my business for me.
I don't know.
People love it. Martin from our group, he loves it. We'll get him to do that.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, exactly. So when I came back to Nando's, and I'd kind of grown these two people to take over from the market. So one guy now runs the licensed markets, and this lady Jess runs South African marketing. The opportunity to head into what is a new role for Nando's and a new role for me, which is it's Chief Strategy Officer, which sounds very...
That sounds very fancy.
Upfront, and I get abused, rightfully so, all day by Nando's, like, big boy job. Because strategy as a title is... It
sounds intimidating.
It's got to be up there with one of the most misunderstood and misused words in business. It has to be. I haven't had a job interview where a candidate hasn't said to me, when you say to them, what what kind of work do you want to do? What do you want to be involved in? And they said, well, we want to make ads, definitely for Nando's, you hear that a lot. But they want to be involved in strategy and strategic decisions. And when you probe them what they really mean by that, often it means importance.
Yes.
I want to do important things. I want to be important.
I want to be the important person.
And you know what? That's awesome. It's important.
Are you important now,
Yeah.
You're the important chief officer.
That's not what. Well, so part of this was what exactly is this thing, and what isn't it actually?
Yeah.
And it's important that people want to do important work. No one wants to do meaningless, boring, trivial work.
Of course.
And there's lots of definitions of strategy. I think the one that's made the most sense to me comes from actually Cynthia Montgomery, who's the head of strategy at Harvard Business School. She said, a strategy is how you build unfair advantage in a sea of changing conditions. It's like, well, I love that. That's really, most people can understand. I can say that to a restaurant manager.
It makes sense to anyone. Like, even the man on the street understands, oh, that's what you mean.
How to build unfair advantage in a sea of changing conditions.
I like the unfair advantage, right? We want to have unfair advantage.
Well, I think when people hear strategy, they think, it's big graphs and complicated models and clever stuff. And it's like, it's something that like important people do. It's like, no, anyone can be involved in the strategy of a business, really, if you're contributing to the source of unfair advantage. Yes. And the sea of changing conditions matters as well. And part of the reason, that this role exists now and perhaps didn't was because the world's changed and changing a fair degree.
And it's changing a lot faster now than it probably was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it seems to.
Yeah.
It seems to, yeah. There's one thing that's really helped me with that is we're not that special. Everyone's going through it, for starters. Secondly, this has happened before. And if you study history, you have these episodes that happen almost once a generation. There's a few key texts, and the fourth turning is the most prolific of these texts. It's, every generation goes through this big upheaval, every 80 odd years. The last one we had was in and around World War II. Yeah. So we're just due one now. Yes. Yeah. And so if you go back to, what happened and changed then, and you even go 80 years, 160 years ago, and what did that, seismic change look like? What are the decisions?
Can you learn from it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's normal. I find it very comforting. It's like, yes, it's destabilizing. There's a lot of change. Also, it's very important and necessary. And B, don't fight it. It's going to happen with or without you.
Roll with it and find the unfair competitive advantage as you embrace it.
Precisely. You're exactly right.
So that's the new role. When does it start?
It started on the 1st of August, so I'm doing it for 6 weeks. I'm very much the annoying new kid of like, I'm sorry, what is this? How does this work? Everything that's not marketing, which you have some exposure to.
Yes. But you weren't deep diving into all of the other areas.
Which is,
it's a fun place to be at.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So far, so good. Like all good growth things, there has to be a balance of terror and excitement. Yes. And when I joined Nando's, it was very exciting. It's terrifying because screw this thing up. When I joined Stir, it was terrifying because it's like I'm leading a marketing team, I'm a director, and oh god. But exciting. I've always wanted to do this. Joining Cadbury, it was like I'm leaving the safety of a bank, and I had lots of bank jobs available in South Africa, but I wanted to do this.
You would have probably been miserable if you just went into a bank job. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Some of my best friends are bankers.
Mine too. But they are made for it. So it's like, for me, it's finding what your true calling is or what truly makes you happy. And I could be super miserable being in marketing, leading marketing in Nando's, because that is not my thing. But you are exceptionally happy. So it's like, if we go into a route that's not necessarily 100% for us, that's when it leads to discontent.
I think, and happiness is a wonderful thing to have an aim at. And I loved Arthur Brooks in particular, and the thesis on happiness. It can be quite transient, though. It is. Like, I'm really happy now. I'm talking about my mate. This is wonderful. And she thinks I'm quite clever to be on the podcast. This is very happy. Of course.
I'm very happy that you're on the podcast,
but,
too.
I had 3 difficult meetings before this, which I wasn't happy. And so when I get home tonight and Carla says, how was your day? Like, was it or wasn't it happy? Yeah. What's nice, what's better, I think, is this idea of purpose.
Yes.
Because it's like the bass note that keeps the song together, and that allows you to deal with, to not just be out to sea with, the mood of the meeting or the day. Sure.
So it's like when you are grounded in purpose, you can have difficult, challenging, hard days,
Sure.
but still be totally fulfilled because you are living purpose.
Well, suffering sucks. So if there's a reason that you're going through the difficult, it's like a bit like childbirth. It's like that's not a happy thing.
Yeah.
And I know when I became a dad, it was very high on meaning, but it was quite low on happiness.
Of course.
There are lots of happy things that happen, of course. But it's a way more meaningful event than it's a happy event.
Yes.
But it is also a happy event.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. When you became a dad, tell me about your little girls.
Yes, I've got three kids. 13, 10, and 4. 13, nearly 11.
Cute.
Yeah, boy turns 11 in a couple of weeks. Yeah, very cool. So, I have a tremendous wife who I don't deserve. And we met at university. She was my tutor at university.
Really?
Yeah, she tutored me corporate
Amazing.
finance and investment. I thought I was marrying for money.
Is she in corporate finance and investment?
No, she's way more important than that now. She's
Of course.
She's a mum. She manages a few other things in terms of her
Beautiful.
family business. But so 3 kids, and she's just really gifted, particularly with children. I didn't grow up with a lot of small people, and so it was quite a new experience for me. But it's been one of the things that was different was. Everyone said to me, when you have kids, like when you hold your child for the first time, it's like the heavens open and everything clicks into place and makes sense. And it's like, this is it. It's like Lion
moment.
King, you know, like that.
Right. It just happens. And does that music play as well?
It does, because you can play music. We could take a thing. I don't actually remember what the tunes were. I remember what the music was on the way to the hospital.
Right.
But in the pandemonium of a delivery room,
It was just.
it was like a delivery room, yeah. And it was a profound moment. But the way it was sold to me was like you have this Lion King moment, and then it just gets gradually worse over time, particularly when they're teenagers. Okay. And you
Like
want
sleepless nights,
and you want to go back to
that moment.
Exactly. And like I've had the total opposite experience. That was a cool experience. There was nothing.
Yes.
Thank God, nothing difficult, bad happened at all.
Yeah.
But for me, every day's been better. It's like the graph's gone this way, not the other way.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And listen, having a teenage daughter, she's big into the arts. She's into drama and acting. But different to that. She wants to be on the stage doing the things.
Right.
I don't mind the stage, but I don't love it anyway like she does.
Right.
And she's really gifted at it. But so to watch her become her own full person, that's amazing,
beautiful.
man.
It's beautiful to witness.
And she's
that.
half Portuguese, so there's a hot temperament there, and we play often, and it's going to be what it's going to be.
It's gonna get worse.
But listen, I have lots of Portuguese uncles who can sit on the panel for boyfriend interviews.
Ooh, so I don't want you to get to boyfriend interviews.
Yeah, that's something I think society's lost a little bit. There needs a bit more adult supervision of boyfriend interviews. So I'll be bringing that back.
I escaped the boyfriend interview because I moved to a different city to go to university.
You see.
So that I didn't need to do the boyfriend interview.
Okay, Amelia, don't listen to Naomi. She doesn't know what you're talking about. It's a terrible decision. Staying home with boyfriend
ask my
interview.
dad how that worked out for me. Yeah. Don't listen to me, listen to your dad.
Indeed.
Oh, that's
So she's the eldest, and then Gabriel, my wee boy. What a legend, man. He's 10, 11. And so I had the pigeon.
So you have a partner in crime with all the ladies.
And then we had this wee girl, Rebecca, who's
my sister's name is Rebecca.
a force of nature. Yeah, she was born in COVID, May 2020.
Really?
Yeah.
The babies are always a force of nature.
This one.
Yeah. I'm the baby in my family too. We bring lots of energy.
Right, okay.
But
Rebecca, listen to Naomi. She knows exactly what she's talking about.
Babies are the blessing to the family that the other kids are just a joy to have. We are the blessing.
Okay, maybe stop before she said that. No, listen.
And
very good.
Dads generally give in to babies. You've had incredible successes, and oftentimes we think that success is overnight, and you've shared your journey of how you've gone through. In that time, how did you deal with failure?
Yeah.
What has been some of your toughest challenges or lessons that you've learned?
Sure. I don't want to be glib about this, but I've learned very little from success. Most of what I've learned through screwing things up, being involved in screw-ups that I had nothing to do with.
And still have to take accountability for it?
Yeah, and so how you make meaning out of the setbacks, the suffering, the hard times. That's it's called growing up, I believe.
Do we have to grow up?
No,
Really?
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
you're bursting my
Yeah.
bubble.
So the idea of success is, I mean, failure often is a comma, it's not a full stop. It's very definitely a setback and a time to pause and reflect. I'm trying to think of a couple of examples. A movie business makes money three ways. They sell movie tickets, advertising, and Coke and popcorn. But you don't really get to choose what films are made, so you're kind of at the mercy of that. Yeah. And advertising is a function of your audience, so how many big people are going to see the ad. So one of the few things you can control is Coke and popcorn, because you can't control the others as much. Yeah. So I did this piece of market research when I was at Stoke-Kinnico and asked people, what would, tell us about the catering offer, Coke, popcorn, /papi, all that sort of stuff. And consumers en masse said, we're just bored of Coke and popcorn. We're bored to death of it. We've had this since the 50s. It's just like, it's really expensive, and all of those,
movie popcorn and Coke is expensive.
Listen, I've had a whole career of people telling me the things I sell are expensive. I hear you, X, and private school chicken, and medical aid, Nando's chickens. I've heard all of it. So this is familiar ground.
Right.
Exactly.
You can deal
Someone
with
said
it.
to me the other day, said, Nando's chickens have bank accounts at Investec. That was a new one.
Really? Well, I never heard that one. That's a cool one. Okay.
It's true. So Coke and popcorn. Anyway. So I was, okay. What would you like then? And they said, well, you know what? We'd love frozen yogurt. It's like, remember the frozen yogurt trend? Like,
yes.
There's frozen yogurts
everywhere. Yes.
And pies. We love pies. And there were a couple of
I
things
think
they wanted.
eat a pie watching a movie, but okay.
Yeah, so it was spilling a pie. It's easy. Well, the best popcorn is a genius invention. It literally rescued the cinema business in the 60s when TV became popularized. Because it's high margin, it's easy to clean, it doesn't spoil. It's a great innovation. It's one of the greatest innovations of the 20th century. Yes. So okay, fine. We're going to go long on frozen yogurt and the capex investments into these things. And pies, I don't think we did too much on pies. But I certainly remember sort of frozen yogurt, and it was a colossal failure. It was a disaster. No one really wanted it.
Because they cold, you kind of like...
So I'm like, we did proper market research.
People are fickle.
Well, again, part of the learning was, because now you're on the hook to shareholders. Like, so we invested to buy frozen yogurt machines and all these, and we had other suppliers who put their money in, and now no one's buying the stuff at all. It's well advertised. Everyone knows we've got it, but they don't want to buy it.
Right. They want popcorn and Coke.
Precisely. So, look, part of that learning was people want the illusion of choice. They don't actually want choice. So they want to know that they can choose, but they're going to choose.
They're still going to go to what we all know, movies and popcorn.
Precisely, yeah. So in market research, a hot tip for young marketers out there is if you ask consumers what will it take for you to buy more of our product, they'll always tell you the two constraints are choice and money. Always. I used to be the brand manager of Chappies. The cheapest thing you can buy in South Africa, and they said it was too expensive. They said that we'd buy more if they were cheaper. So it's like from Chappies all the way through to private school chicken, like cost is always going to be an answer. The second thing is variety. We'd buy more Chappies if there were more flavors. It's like, how many more flavors do you need?
Well, there's so many flavors in Chappies.
And it's the same as Nando's. Well, God, we need a Nando's pizza. It's like, we're never going to get a Nando's pizza. But we want more variety. So that setback, and that was a proper setback, was learning that there are known fault lines in market research, actually what people want, that's an empathy thing again, is the illusion of choice without actual choice. So we could then just have menu panels of things that,
like
are available, but we know you're going to buy this thing.
Yes, yeah.
So we kind of stuck to that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that.
It's quite interesting running a South African company in non-South African parts of the world, particularly Africa. Yeah. Because there's a reception of, like, South Africa, you're not so smart. Like, your Rainbow Nation thing was a little bit of an overclaim and an overpromise, and we're going to run things our way. And, if you look at our GDP growth over the last 10 years versus, say, Kenya, Angola, Botswana, it's like we're not that impressive. No, we're not. Actually, about everything. Yes. So there's definitely some sort of hang-ups that we have in Africa, definitely. Yes. And if you're exporting a South African ad, for example, like it's a disaster. It's like, here come the South Africans to tell us what to do.
And there's cultural nuances as well that wouldn't work.
Yeah, part of it. I mean, you try to make something that, to your point, that's humanly true and true for all. Amazon works everywhere because everyone wants cheap prices and quick delivery. It's like that's a human truth.
That's standard across.
Having that as a backdrop to, I think some of what the US is experiencing as a culture is like the world doesn't want to swallow everything the US has to sell in large chunks without considering it first.
Yes.
And its role in geopolitics, its role in business is, being reconsidered, I think. It's not being rejected, but that's how you grow. Again, I wouldn't have had that learning experience of, you can't be informed through, Twitter.
No.
And
Especially
CNN
not
and
Twitter or
and e-news.
Yeah.
So the world is more complex.
They give us, the news often gives us a narrative that the world wants us to know.
Well, on the one, because I understand a bit about media, like news used to be the most watched thing in the world. And because of that, it could sell advertising, which allowed it to be independent in most countries. But because of the fragmentation of media, and people get their news now from different places, they don't have the same economic model that they would have had, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Which means in order to get eyeballs that drive the audiences, that drive the advertising, there is a bias that is introduced to, hysterical headlines and hugely polarizing topics. And so balanced reporting is not very good for grabbing people's attention, which is the limbic system and things that are very provocative. And so, it ended up having now what we have, which is a distrust of media and a distrust of headlines and a distrust of, I don't love, there's a strong word, I find it fascinating to read the same article on Fox News and CNN about the same set of events. It's like two totally different things happened here.
And it's like, you could have been there.
The Lions won the Curry Cup, the Sharks won the Curry Cup.
Which one do I believe?
Yeah, precisely. So, listen, part of that is this fourth turning thing where, the world has sort of like this defragmentation in order to be refragmented, which is, God willing, 5 or 10 years away, as we, reorganize ourselves to find what is and isn't important. And the last time this happened, women didn't have the vote. There were a whole heap of things which today we just see as normal, which are going to look to us as not normal.
In 5, 10 years.
In 5, 10 years time, exactly.
Yes. And we're going to ask ourselves that we actually allowed that we actually live through that.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I'm left-handed, right? And it's a weird genetic thing because a lot of the firstborns in my family are left-handed. My mother, left-handed firstborn. My cousin, myself, my daughter Amelia, all the firstborns are all left-handed. But now 50 years ago, left-handed was it was an aberration. It was... there was no left-handed apartheid. Let's be clear. It wasn't. This was no massive social evil that was imprisoned upon left-handed people. But you did design scissors, and scissors for left-handed people are different. And can openers, you have a lot to answer for. And the mouse, we don't have left-handed mice. Other than that, that's the small hills upon which I'll die.
My mum was left-handed, and we always have left-handed scissors. So I always just assumed that they were.
Yeah, it's hard to come by, and you lose them because I'm a boy.
Because I'm trying to I'm what the hell?
But talking to my mother, her being left-handed, and it was difficult, and you were odd and unusual, and there was a little bit of prejudice around that. No, I was what? It's cool to be left-handed because you're different.
Right.
And if you see how societies over time transcend and include their prejudice. And sometimes we go too far, and we're seeing some of that. What the woke movement is now a pejorative term. 5 years ago, it was a progressive term.
Yes.
The changes we have in kind of language and gender identities. That's a normal part of a society reorganizing itself, and that's not going to be done through proclamation.
No.
Thank God, because we have free speech, and we should all agree.
We have free speech for the most part of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's freer than it was 50 years ago, and way freer than it was 150 years ago. So one of my favorite quotes is from Dr. Martin Luther King, who paraphrases from a rabbi, as it turns out, because I researched the quote.
I really do love the quote.
I really do, yeah. He says that the arc of the moral universe, so moral, how we separate good and evil, but right from wrong. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice and mercy.
It's also a hopeful quote, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's long. It's not going to happen quickly, but it does bend toward justice and mercy. And if you look at human progress over the last 200 years, there's massive difficulties in Ukraine and the Middle East, and there's huge challenges in parts of South Africa and the world. So I'm not in any way being naive or overly optimistic here, but compared to where we were 30 years ago, 50 years, 100 years ago, by most measures, humanity, the world, and civilization is better off.
Yes,
definitely.
Yes.
So
we can
it's
all
long.
agree with that.
It's long, and I wish it was shorter. And we all do,
Yeah.
and I wish it bent quicker.
Yes.
But it doesn't.
And I think to add to that, it's collective. So it's you doing your part to move towards the good. It's me doing mine. And every little person, if we all add collectively, we will move our society and our generation even closer to
Sometimes,
that
yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes. Sometimes you need a Mandela or a Gandhi or a Martin Luther King or an Oprah to kind of shove us forward a little bit.
There will always be those.
Sure. There's always going to be Kim Jong-il and Hitler and other difficult people that try to drag us backwards. This is, in the words of the Mandalorian, this is the way.
Yeah. There's always a white...
Martin Luther King, Mandalorian. Here we go.
That's right.
Covering a lot of ground.
Yes, we have been from philosophy to the arts, to marketing, to business, to investment banking. What are some of your words of wisdom that you want to share?
I collect them more than I generate them. So I don't know if it's necessarily a word of wisdom, but the world is going to be stressful and difficult for the next couple of years. To expect that, and then it's the expectation management. If happiness is expectations minus results, one way to fool yourself is to manage your expectations differently. It's going to be upheaval. Most of the world is voting this year. I forget the number. I think 3.5 billion people will vote this year. So far, of those election results, 40% of those elections that have happened have resulted in regime change. Yeah. That's astonishing. Yeah. So the world, and with that comes new and difficult things, and good things, and exciting things, and progress things. And I think, despair is a lot. Despair just means nothing changes. Yeah. So, stress is the very definition of change. Yeah. Yeah. How you respond to a changing environment. So I think despair, managing the fact that things are going to be, and they have to be upside down for a little bit, helps people to, I think, reorganize themselves. If you think in a 10 to 15 year horizon, not how do I blow up on TikTok this year, I think you can set yourself up for a really good life. And 1% improvement every week even is a 50% improvement over a year. Yeah. Yeah. I think Bill Gates said, I think it's Bill, said people underestimate what they can do in a month, but overestimate what they can do in a year. Yes. Yeah. I might have the horizons up, but the principle is the same. So small incremental improvements are magical. They're transformative. It's astonishing. And if you are the collection of your habits, then being able to manage your habits, which is eminently doable. It's the reason that Atomic Habits is the most top-selling non-fiction book, I think, in the world this year. That's taking on the Bible and a bunch of other non-fiction books. Another book that we need to put on our podcast for people to read. But the collection of habits facilitate that continuous improvement. Yeah. And it was one of the things I learned in management actually was we got some data for this at Nando's. People ask me, what does it take to get promoted? Yes. And I gave them the kind of theoretical answer, but everyone has a personal development plan. Everyone can have one. And the development plan is quite simply, where are you now, where do you want to be, and what are the skills you need to get from A to B? And those skills can come through formal training or doing job shadowing. There's lots of ways in which you can do this. Yeah. What was fascinating in that exercise, when I looked at the data, was those who had a plan and stuck to it got promoted. I know, it's like that's what it was meant to do. What was most interesting, though, that wasn't that interesting. If you have a plan and you stick to it, it's, there's a pretty good chance you could have favorable outcomes eventually. Was those who had a plan but didn't stick to it did better than those who didn't have a plan at all. Just the act of thinking about who are you and where you're going and then writing that down, even if that's all you do, was more advantageous to people than just not doing anything and waiting for the world to give them the opportunity. Yes. And that was just, that was really, really interesting. You can apply that in a lot of different contexts. Think about your marriage, your children, your friendship circles.
Life, yeah.
I play golf for my many sins because something you can't be happy all the time.
Just to make yourself miserable.
No, precisely. I went from cycling to golf. Most people have gone from golf to cycling.
Give me cycling, it's okay.
Yeah, back injury. It's now so golf. So I'm just swapping injuries now.
Okay.
But where are we now?
We were back to a plan.
Yes, having a plan. Yes. Just the simple act of having a plan, even if you don't follow it, is beneficial. So I'd say, spend the time and effort doing that. You can go all the way down Oprah manifest dream board thing. That's not me, but I can see the value in that of taking stock and having. You don't hit a target you don't aim at. That's obvious.
Yes.
But for a lot of particularly young people, they're waiting for the world to give them something which the world can't give.
No one is going to come and give you a plan.
You might make it lucky. It's not impossible, but if you take stock, add it up, off you go.
It will add up. It will add up. I had my plan. I had my AMP plan, I think, on my plan for many years. Sometimes it takes a bit longer.
That's right, I remember you told us.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, but that plan pans out. Doug, this was absolutely wonderful.
I've had the best time. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your news with us. It has been an honor to host you on In Conversation with Naomi. Send your beautiful family all our love. And to everyone that have watched us today, we want to say thank you for your time. You can follow Doug on LinkedIn.
You can. You won't find much there.
Find a lot of information.
I'll do better, kids. I promise. At LinkedIn.
Is there anywhere else that they can find you?
There's not a great deal. No.
I thought so.
I need to up my game. Yeah. Who knew the marketing guy needs some marketing help?
The marketing guy needs some help. Anyone wants to volunteer? I'm just kidding. But Doug, thank you very much again. And we hope to have more conversations with you.
What a joy. Thank you.
Yes,
I've really enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job.